And we're back. We promised not to be away for too long. One semifinals series down and one more to go. It's going to be the Cougars versus the Ghosts, and two pretty dominant squads it does look like as far as from their backgrounds here again.
Yeah, no, I'm as much as I was hyping up the triplets earlier, man, going through the background for this Ghost team, I am hyped for this next match. This Ghost team coming in is the reigning undefeated champions from last year's Quebec High School Rocket League Championship. And they're still not that original team from last year with only one member left in there, a second team member that joined them earlier in the season that was running back squad for the team last year. And they're joined by an all new player who has helped keep them to an undefeated record to this point, if not to the end of the season. Absolutely insane.
That's an insane stat line. I think that you've got that sort of backflow in your talent. It almost kind of reminds me of the St. Clair College squad with their different their A, B, C squads. It doesn't matter who it is that shows up. It always seems like they're able to produce. They're always able to backfill with their subs as well, and that's going to be quite impressive. It's going to be. It feels like two very talented squads. Can the triplets take down that sort of success is going to be the real question. That next man up sort of mentality, though, is hard to come by.
Yeah, it's extremely hard to come by, and it's extremely hard to overcome, where you're able to just continually sub in players into that structure, into that play, and not really lose a beat or lose a step. The Cougars are going to need everything they've got and rely on that twin intuition and telepathic communication there to ensure they remain perfect rotation wise in play, and give the Ghosts all that they can handle.
It does look like we've got all of our players finishing loading into the lobby here, so it shouldn't be long before we get off to the pitch for game number one. I know I had mentioned best of 7, best of 5s earlier, so do want to clear up since we are still here in the semifinals. We are still sitting in that best of 5. We'll head to that best of 7 next when we get to the grand finals, where one of these two teams will be squaring off against the Marauders from McTavish here. Now, early predictions. We have a quick moment here, Gengar. Who you taking, Cougars or Ghosts?
I'm going to stick with my original prediction. I'm going to ride that triplet magic, and we're going Cougars.
Going with the Cougars here. I think it's hard for me to bet against the success that we have seen for the Ghosts. So, you know what? Let's go ahead and split the desk, I do suppose. We can go one way or the other, see who's able to pull things off, see players starting to actually hit to the pitch now. So let's go ahead and do it up here. Second semifinal action, game number 1. Let's get down to it.
Let's get down to it with the kickoff. The Cougars there getting the ball early into their opponent's zone. Great push back there by the Ghosts. Stop that wide open shot that the Cougars had early. Beautiful pass up and a clear into the zone by Nathan RL. I think I'm just going to go out on a limb here, Q. I think we're dealing with Ethan, Jonathan, and Nathan here for the Cougars. Rise carrying it back into the Cougar zone. Ethan tipping it up. Hanox missing the ball there, and Nathan pushing it back down the pitch, pass to Jonathan. Oh, just a great interception there by the Ghost to stop that shot. Early on, I'm quite impressed by the passes here from this Cougars team and their ability to pivot on the fly. Ooh, bad commit there by Jonathan for the Cougars. Ball tipped up, left wide open, and the Ghosts are unable to capitalize with Rise in the middle of the pitch.
They still have the possession, though, here. Do the Ghosts looking to try and see if they can find their first shot. Meanwhile, the opening minute of play, the Cougars have been able to find 2 towards the net, neither of which have been able to find the lace. But I think the big thing is you at least start the progress. You start putting those numbers in your advantage. Interesting hesitation. Knox going to be able to find the bump, but it won't knock them off of this actual possession. Nathan flick over one, but Annex going to be able to find the save. Second touch will also act as a clearing pass to Rise, who's in the sky. Jonathan finds a save on the opposite side of the pitch.
Yeah, beautiful pickup by Jonathan there, immediately to go into the counterattack into the Ghost zone. Rise there, missing the ball and having to carry up the wall. Great clear back out. Jonathan there to receive it. Tap off the wall and pass back to themselves. to shoot the ball back into the opponent's, or try to get a clear back into their zone, into the opponent's zone there. But the Ghost keeping that pressure up here. Cougars fully on the attack now. Jonathan, the tip off and a pass back, but Rise picking up that ball before the Cougars can. A tip dropping to the front of the net, miss on the defense. Ethan with a great clear before Sedfan's able to pick it up, put the ball home. Hannix receiving the ball there, but Nathan keeping the pressure up. Ball dropped in front, cleared up from Rise to Hannix on the wall. Tip up, Hannix carrying it in, centered, and Ethan's able to clear that back out into the Ghost zone. A tip off the top of the wall. Jonathan trying to counter in that 50, Rise carrying it in. Jonathan with another clear, and Hannix with the shots. As the ball is just staying in and around the middle of the pitch at this point in time as teams are battling back and forth with 2 minutes 15 on the clock.
Yeah, we've been sitting at this 5-shot counter in the game so far for a while here. That tug of war around the midfield line, neither team really able to seize the control. I have been really liking what I've been seeing from this Cougars defense, however. There was a play earlier where they sent 2 players forward for a high-low on a ball that was coming in that was just perfectly placed. There was no way you're getting past them. It allowed for them to flip the field. But 2 minutes left in game number 1 here. Still looking for our first goal. Hannix is going to fire a shot. Nowhere near enough juice on that to make it threatening. It's Sedfan looking for just enough of a touch to settle it in front of the net. Able to do that, but Rise has to fall back as Jonathan is going to look to try and pick this thing up on the sidewall. 1 touch, at least to send it into the Ghost territory, but this Ghost team doing a great job of making sure that any visit into this orange half has been relatively quick. And if they do get the ball moving, I feel like maybe that's where the Cougars can start to open up this defense.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that was great poise there showed by Rise, where Rise did have an opportunity to pinch that ball in the attack towards the zone against all 3 of the Cougars defenders, but smartly held back and played that defensive play rather than overcommitting into the zone. These teams are just battling back and forth here. Sedfan going up to intercept the ball, but Ethan clearing it back out. Hannix missed over the top. Ethan with a touch, unable to center that ball. Rise carrying it back out, trying to pinch off the ground. Ethan with a tip up, trying to go for a double touch. Misses that second touch. Sedfan going for the clear. 38 seconds on the clock. Jonathan tipped up, ball centered. Is anyone there? Rise is there to clear out before the Cougars can capitalize with 30 seconds left on the clock.
30 seconds left. The Cougars do have the possession. The Ghosts need to try and find a clear. Nice job by Rise on the sidewall, doing a lot with a little. No gas in the tank. At least able to get past 1 defender, but still looking for a way for a clear because this Cougars defense has been absolutely suffocating around the midfield line. Rise will eventually get 1 touch. It's a pass in the middle of the field that Nathan will be able to send aside. Jonathan fires 1 more ball into the orange half for regulation time. Hannix maybe going coast to coast with it, not going to be able to keep the handle. Ball goes down, and it's off to overtime we go.
Yeah, second overtime we've seen so far in the games that we're going and showcasing. Cougars with an initial strike here. Little bit of an overplay by Ethan trying to dribble that ball up. Hannix with the counter. Puts it back into the corner. Unfortunately doesn't clear. And Jonathan with a shot on net. Great defense by Sedfan to keep that ball out of the net. The Cougars just cycling here to keep that pressure up. No boost. Nathan up with a pass to Jonathan and just tipping that pass wide and up and over the net. Nathan pushing the ball back into the Ghost zone, but Hannix getting that clear out. Cougars are clearing it back up. Great tip play by Rise to force that back in. Hannix with another tip. Sedfan left back on the burner here, ready to take a shot. The Cougars are going to clear that right back up to center and up over into orange zone.
Only for a moment, though. This Ghost squad enters right back into Cougars territory. Ethan's going to be over 1, but Hannix is already pressing forward. We'll send it towards the net, albeit just a tad bit wide, where 1 player is able to field it. I do believe that was Jonathan, who tried to find a way out of the half. That's a dangerous spot. Rise, able to win there, punches it in. It's 1:12 of extra time needed. Ghosts take game number 1.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate bounce there from trying to tip the ball out with that aerial. That just drops the ball right in front of the net. An extremely, extremely dangerous place to drop the ball. And yeah, the Yeah, the Ghosts are able to capitalize on that one mistake.
Despite the fact that they were outshot 9-5, it is them who walks away with a game number 1 win. And sometimes those wins are the biggest because you've shown a way to be able to hold the line on the opposite side. I think I said 9 shots. It's 8 shots from the Cougars that they put on target. You had 7 saves, so they were being efficient with their shots. You just said not today. You also found the way to find the lace on the opposite side of the field as well. Ghosts got to be feeling good after game number 1.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's a great play on both sides of the field, but the Ghosts there able to play solid defense against the Cougars, relentless cycling offense there. And yeah, like you said, all they did was they played their defensive game. It was a back and forth either way, but in playing that defensive game, they waited for that one mistake, and that one mistake is all they needed to capitalize.
Give us just a moment to get our players back in here. I do believe our teams had gotten used to the lobby switch from the group play, which was every other game. Here in best of 5 action, it's 2 on West, then 2 on East. So give them just wait. What happened in the lobby? Did I back out lobby? You know what?
Oh,
I think
looks like we're being a little bit Rocket League right now.
yeah, what's weird is I think I literally just got kicked out to the same thing. Let me open up that lobby here one more again for him on the West Coast. That way we can wait until game number 3 to switch things on over. But lobby is going to be back up for our players. Do give us just a moment here. We do apologize about the wait. It does look like we've already got the Cougars back on in here. And I wanted to ask you, as far as for the Cougars, a team that it felt like it oftentimes were really able to control the pace of the game. Are you worried after an overtime loss like that, or you just head back out of the pitch and go, we just didn't get the rolls last game?
To be honest, if I'm the Cougars after that overtime, I'm going to shake it off. It was one unlucky bounce. Bounces go that way, whether it's hockey, whether it's Rocket League. We all know this. Sometimes those little bounces are all you get. It's a game of luck. You're going to go back out there as the Cougars, confident. You held the other team out. You got the most shots on net. You just got to have the luck go for your way this time.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes a close loss like that can almost be like the perfect trap because you then do start overthinking things. What can we have changed? Instead, well, we just go out and do the same thing. We probably win, 6 out of 10 times. Instead, you make the slightest of changes, and then there's a struggle. But as I had mentioned, wasn't going to be too long. We got all 6 players back out here on the pitch. It's time for game number 2. Let's get down and do what it do.
Yeah, the Ghosts with an early shot on net there, and a great save by the Cougars to capitalize. Rise with a little bit of an overcommit. Ethan picking up that demo, opening up some space, but the Cougars are still pinned in their own end by the Ghosts, even with that demo. And once again, what we were seeing towards the end of last game was more of that boost control that we were seeing by the Marauders from this Ghost team, where at certain points that the Cougars just had no boost to go off of because the Ghosts were just siphoning it all up and not leaving anything left for the triplets.
And I think it's one of those things where if you are a team that's used to, being able to hit the sky and fly high, all of a sudden you get limited with the amount of gas that's in your tank. You're grounded. Now all of a sudden you're almost panicked in a sense because the other team, since they do have the gas, they're going to be up in the sky trying to make those plays. We're a minute into game number 2. Neither team has been able to find the lace just quite yet. But of course, we think back to that last game. Well, we needed extra time just for a team to be able to pick up a goal. It's only been 1 shot so far. It's been a defensive sort of series thus far.
Yeah, exactly. It's very much a defensive series that we're seeing. Back and forth, not just on the scoreboard, but just in the overall play as well. Where we're seeing, I've seen it multiple times from the Ghosts, where they're, instead of being all-out brazen attack, they're showing a bit of composure to, instead of take that opportunity and that natural urge that you have when you're playing Rocket League to just ball chase, go after the ball, drive as hard as you can, offense. And they've shown that control to just hang back a bit, play a bit more defense. While you could capitalize on a push, let's reset for a better opportunity down the field.
Oh, Hannick's going to be able to find a save here, but that doesn't get that ball very far away from the net. That second touch almost acts as a centering sort of pass. It will be Hannick, so we'll be able to send it aside. Can he keep the dribble? Two players went for that same boost. I don't know if it's a little bit of a lack of communications or maybe they're starting to feel the pressure a little bit because we do know this Cougars squad is kind of used to just being able to, I don't want to say dominate the pace of games, but they are a team that we know has had quite a bit of success and a team that has quite a bit of synergy. If you asked me, I don't know if I would have guessed they were triplets thus far in this series. They seem to be out of sorts at times.
Yeah, the Ghosts seem to be putting enough pressure on to the Cougars that is basically breaking their gameplay and their game flow here. Not allowing them to set up, though we have seen at certain moments it sort of creak through with sort of blind passes from one player to the other on the Cougars side, be able to connect those. But the Ghosts are just playing a defensive enough game that they're not giving the Cougars that opportunity to pull off those kind of plays.
Here's an opportunity, slid on by. Nathan rises up, overrise, denied. No, that was a goal. That was, oh no, that was going to go off the post. That's off of Seb Fan. What can you do? Not like this.
Yeah, unfortunate first goal with Cougars over the Ghosts there, and Sedfan just capturing the ball at the corner of the post on the bounce out, and instead driving it back into his own net. Just an unfortunate play as Ethan off the roof there tries to pot it in again, and the Ghosts now are having to play a little bit on the back foot here after a little bit of a mistake in their end. The Cougars seem to be boosted and are pushing a bit heavier here.
They got confidence now after that first goal, and the Ghosts have been unable to find a clear since the kickoff. They've had their backs up against the wall. Now, one thing I have noticed, it felt like at times Cougars were pushed up maybe even a little too far. So if they could capitalize in a quick transition play, they'd have an opportunity. The only thing is, well, the Cougars have been doing a great job of managing the resources, really managing the boost. Every time it seems like there's multiple orange players on the screen that are sitting there with not very full circles. So the Cougars doing a great job of keeping up the pressure here for now.
Yeah, exactly. And another great shot there from Nathan, picking a top corner there. But this is exactly that first goal is exactly what I was talking about, Q, where the Cougars need to come out of this, shake off that overtime loss. They let in shots last game, as you said, but that all the reason they lost that last game was just a bounce didn't go their way. And in this game, the bounces are going their way.
So far, that is the case, and there's a bounce off of a car that leaves a centering pass. And the Cougars have now been able to find 3 unanswered goals here in game number 2. The Ghosts at this point just would like to find themselves 1 before the end of the game.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, those are the bounces. That's the way the game goes sometimes. And in this one, the Cougars are able to capitalize that even in a defense-heavy game where they're able to just pick up on either a miscue or a play off of the defensive to score. And there's their fourth, picking it up. And all it is it's just capitalizing on these bounces. And the Cougars seem to have found their form here and are giving the Ghosts everything that they have.
I can't tell if it's the Cougars finding their form, the Ghosts feeling the pressure and needing to up the pace a little bit, being down by 3, now 4, or maybe a combination of the two. I think importantly here for the Ghosts, you have to realize you won game number 1. A loss like this isn't necessarily the end of the world. The series will essentially turn into a best of 3 after the next 15 seconds. Run off the clock. Open field on the other side. Maybe. No, Ethan's great on the rotation. Keeps the pressure alive and will send that ball again almost all the way to the goal line.
Yeah. The Ghosts here need to try and pick up something if they can, even in extra time here. But the Cougars are doing just a great job of controlling the ball. And the Cougars ground the ball there to end the game, taking game 2 4-0 over the Ghosts, tying up the series.
Well, I think the big thing here is you come in and you steal at least one of the first two before you head off onto your other servers. Maybe you feel again. I never want to talk too much as far as East Coast, West Coast, but I'm sure sometimes you feel that slight little bit of difference. So for the Cougars, you at least got one of those games back because that was on West. We're off to US East though, where that is the Ghost Home servers, and they have the ability to potentially end things before we go. Oh, actually, I guess we're gonna be doing our last three on East now, looking where game number 5 is. So never mind me. We're off to East. They've kind of given themselves that advantage.
Yeah, well, they've given themselves a bit of that advantage there going in. What the Ghosts really need to do here in the next game is pick up that early kickoff or that early first couple seconds goal here. Right now, with the way the Cougars were playing towards the end of that game, like you said, whether it's the Cougars finding their game, the Ghosts misplaying things a little bit, having to play up for that pressure. Right now, the momentum's on the Cougars' side. The Ghosts have to do what they can to level that out and start trying to tip that momentum back down towards the Cougars' end of the goal.
I have to see how things start off in game number 3 here, because I mean, game 1 was close. That was where the
hmm
Ghosts came away with the dub. Cougars came out in game number 2, and they really went on the prowl. They were able to really kind of up the pace and control things. I'm
hmm
worried that if it happens to be another sort of, I don't want to call it a shootout because 3-0 is not necessarily quite a shootout. But if it turns into where the offenses are more predominant than the defenses, I do have concerns, some worries, so to speak, as far as for Ghost.
Yeah, exactly. Not even just on the shot counter. I'm not exactly sure what the shots were in that last game, but I'm pretty sure it's going to heavily favor the Cougars on that front.
Mhm.
But yeah, even if we're just looking in the difference in goals that have been potted here, the Ghosts only won that game one by 1 goal. Even in that case with a level series, they're down in terms of goal production. They're gonna have to find a way, like I said, to stop that Cougars downhill momentum, turn the tables back the other way, and try to get that early goal.
How early do you think that goal needs to come across? Do you think it's a concern if the goal doesn't come across, if there's as long as you've held the line the other side, or no?
I think as long as they've held the pressure for within the first minute, if they don't get that first goal right away, but they've held the pressure, they've maintained control of the ball, they've maintained field control. At that point, I wouldn't be too concerned on their end. But like I said, that goal differential right now is something that we haven't seen that offensive flair from the Ghosts. We know they're a great defensive team. We know they can lock things down. We know they can carry things into an overtime and hold their game there. But can they compete if this becomes an all-out shootout situation?
I think this game becomes important here as far as for the Ghost because you have been able to take one, but if game number 3 all of a sudden gets to a point where you are what's the best way of putting it here? If you end up having another as game where it's not close, if it's a close like 1-0 game and you lose, you're not too concerned if you're Ghost, right? That one you've been able to close the gap a little bit.
Mhm.
Um, but otherwise, uh, I guess what's the best way of putting it? You got to make sure that you're able to keep the gap relatively close. I feel like it's the most important.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they need to keep this next game close. They can't let things get away from them. And what I would like to see from the Ghosts, while I was praising it a little bit there after the first game, playing that little bit more of a timid game, and instead of capitalizing on opportunities where you could pick up the ball in a 50-50 situation in the opponent's zone right in front of their net, they were falling back. I'd like to see less of that timid defensive play and a bit more aggression from the Ghosts.
I definitely would like to see more aggression. I always just worry about reaching towards like the aggression like standpoint, just because in a game like this where the slightest bit of mistakes can really be the difference of a win and a loss. The Cougars team have shown the ability to really flip your field very quickly. If you overextend and get a little too aggressive, you can get punished relatively quickly here. Let me
Mhm.
let me do one thing. Let's see if we can get everybody out of this lobby. I feel like we're having issues as far as getting our second team into this lobby here. then we'll reset things up. That way we can continue moving forward. I think, getting ready to go into game number 3 again, this is basically the point where a lot of the time series do start to turn just a little bit. And I think important for Ghost, game number 2 didn't quite turn out your way. I think the big thing is you just have to kind of put that one behind you. And I think the big thing is focus on where that ball is going versus where it is, because the Cougars seem to like to open things up as far as with those passing plays.
Yeah, exactly. We've seen multiple passing plays on the Cougars side where they're committing all 3 players into the offensive push. And for the Ghosts, capitalizing on that, being able to turn and push that ball into that open field on the Cougar side is going to be key if they're going to try and build any offensive push here. We keep going back around the point. Right now, it is literally sword versus shield in the battle we're seeing. Shield pulled off that game 1 overtime victory, but the offensive push on the sword on the Cougars end drove home and showcased their offensive ability and their ability to score there. Yeah, while we wait to get the match set up for this next round and that server up and running, yeah, like here's my question for you, Q. If you were playing for the Ghosts or you were coaching the Ghosts here, what would you be telling them here in this down period? Well, there's a little bit of technical problems. You've got that little bit of extra downtime. You got more than that 60 seconds. What are you telling your team here to be able to push for that win?
I think the big thing is you have to start with the basics. We saw a couple of times where double commits opened things up, but also to the point where, again, I don't think it's focusing on where the ball is going. We've seen where they are opening things up with those passing plays. You can't be stagnant and playing reactionary. You have to be playing actionary, especially on the defensive side, which I know can sometimes be a little tough. But you know what? While we try and figure out our lobby issues in the background, let's go ahead and send things off to a quick break, and we'll be back with game number 3 right after this.
What I would say to somebody that hasn't heard about Extra Life is that it is one of the most fun ways to raise money.
Basically what it is, it's a fundraiser for the Children's Miracle Network hospitals. You sign up, you get a little donor page, and you ask your friends and family and teachers and coworkers for a tax-deductible donation while you play video games.
Even people that I know that don't play video games are enjoying it just because they're helping kids. And I mean, that's the reason enough, at least for me.
Totally do it, because it doesn't matter if you raise $1, that dollar itself can change somebody's life.
It's not just doing board games or playing card games, it's just playing, it's having fun, and that's the heart of Extra Life. And whether you stream it or you just say you're going to do it with a group of friends or coworkers, it is absolutely the most fun you will have raising money and bringing awareness to a great cause.
All right, let's get on ready to get down to it. We do apologize for the little bit of a break, but we do now have everybody on in. It's game number 3. One of these two teams puts themselves on a series point.
Yeah, exactly. And great kickoff lead there by Sedfan, pushing the ball deep into the Cougar zone. And that's exactly the offensive push we needed to see from them early there, as they're unable to capitalize on it. And luckily the overcommit doesn't come to bite them. As the Cougars are putting that pressure back on, but exactly that offensive attack right off the kickoff was exactly what we needed to see from the Ghosts if they're going to have any hope of pushing back against this Cougars offense.
Yeah, I feel like the big thing, though, is you have to maintain the possession down there on that blue half of the field, because we know that the Cougars like to strike fast and in a hurry. If you can at least keep the ball out of their hands, that's a good starting point. Jonathan not going to be able to find that one, but Ethan will be up in the sky, at least keeps it forward. Nathan's rotated back, pops it up over Zebfan, and now it's numbers the other way. Rise in a tough spot, finds the first save. Jonathan also denied by Rise as well.
Save. Oh, wonderful saves by Rise there, battling against those 2 shots from the Cougars. But once again, the Cougars are keeping that ball in the Ghost zone, and the Ghosts are being forced to play defensive again. The Ghosts getting the ball out here, but once again, they're only committing a single player onto that offense, with the other two players holding back, playing a little bit timid. It's a little bit concerning, but the Ghosts really need to commit offensively here, whether they have ball possession or not in the opponent's zone, to try and use those numbers to give themselves a shot.
Yeah, I mean, we're 2 minutes, or not 2 minutes in, we're a minute and a half in, and we're still looking for our first one here as far as for the Ghost. Meanwhile, for the Cougars, they've had 4 attempts at it. Granted, none of them have found the lace, but you're at least starting to put those numbers in your favor, at least if you're a statistics fan like myself. So you have Fan now looking to try and enter into the offensive half. One touch, was looking for a potential pass off the backboard, couldn't quite find its mark. Hannock's missed pinches, and well, now all of a sudden that gives the Cougars the possession. Pass the middle, Ethan fires shot. That's going to hit the post, and now it's the Cougars looking to try and gather it for another attempt.
Yeah, and the Cougars here gathering it in, but Jonathan picking that up just over the middle and forcing the ball back into the Ghost zone. We're starting to see the Ghost resources deplete a little bit here as the Cougars are starting to pick up their boost on their side of the field. Rise trying to carry it off, but Jonathan with a good center. Nathan coming up and tipping the ball just wide into the corner. Right for Jonathan to try and pick up. Ethan's coming back in, shooting the ball off, not able to get it centered and get a good pass off. Nathan picking up that ball, aerial dribbling in it, and Nathan carries it into that net to pick up that first goal just over the halfway mark of this match.
It starts with Ethan finding the demo, because then that does put Seb, and I believe it was Rise as the other defender, that needed to try and make up a whole bunch of ground to try and find a spot in the net. Both of them almost getting there, but neither of them able to find a touch. So the Cougars do have that lead with about 2:12 left to play. The Cougars now looking to maybe potentially add to their total. Ethan looks for a shot, denied. Nathan will follow it up with a second opportunity. That one also gets sent aside. Zed Fan trying to find the relief valve out of the orange half, will be denied the first time around. Hannock tries to go coast to coast with it, gets shut down by Nathan, but this is an opportunity for the Ghosts to try and set up shop down here on this blue side and try and get a little bit of offense going.
Yeah, exactly. The Ghosts here have a bit more boost to be able to use, a bit more boost economy, whereas the Cougars are suffering a little bit in that regard. But the Cougars, Jonathan with a solo carry, picks it up, carries it out of their zone, giving his teammates a chance to try and pick up that boost differential. And once again, the Cougars drive that ball, once again, we've seen this before, right back down into the Ghost zone, keeping that offensive push going. And Ethan with a long shot just beats the Ghost defender to give them a 2-0 lead.
Hannock's almost is able to find a touch and instead puts Zed in kind of a tough spot. No gas in the tank. You try and guess where you can. They were able to put themselves in almost the right spot, but instead it's now the Cougars with a 2-goal league. Zed Fan gonna be able to pop this thing up. Second opportunity, that's gonna be just a tad bit high. Rise should be able to keep the pressure down here on this side, but both them and Hannock's had both committed to that. Neither of them really able to get enough of it to be able to get the possession, so now it's the Cougars who get a crack at it. That first shot gets denied, but you'll see they're doing a great job on the defensive rotations, playing downhill, keeping that ball in front of them, which allows them to keep the pressure on the orange half.
Yeah, no, the Cougars are doing a great job at keeping that pressure on the Ghost, forcing it down. A great shot by Rise, carrying it in just on top of the crossbar, not able to put that home. Cleared out, and Ethan looking to clear it right back over center, but the Ghosts are right there with full boost if they could keep possession. Instead, they pass it off to Jonathan on the roof, and the Cougars are coming back down. An unfortunate miss by Hannock's to try and pick up that ball to clear, giving Jonathan a clear open momentum benefit and boost here. Jonathan pick up the ball back up their zone. Rise going on the attack. Rise out of boost, unfortunately, and has to bounce the ball back to mid to Hannock's. But that's exactly the point where I was talking about during the break, where I really want to see the Ghosts put more than a single player and attacker in. And it seems more often than not, they're sitting back, not committing that second attacker, and the Cougars are able to capitalize, taking that game 3 to 0.
Well, we were wondering, was it going to be more of a shootout, more of a defensive standstill? Ironically, somewhere kind of in between. I mean, the Cougars found 8 shots, sure. 2 of which found the lace, but only 3 required saves other than that. So the Ghosts did a good job of at least being able to limit the opportunities from the Cougars. Unfortunately, from them, though, not able to put any goals into the back of the net, only giving themselves 3 chances at it. The Ghosts have to find something to get their offense going because that's now been a while since we've seen them find a goal.
Yeah, the last time we saw the Ghosts actually score was that overtime goal in game
Yeah.
1. They're 2 games now where they haven't managed to score a goal at all. And for the Ghosts, that's got to be a point you have to focus on. You have to pick up a bit of offense here. It's not a situation where we've seen before in the tournament where one team is up and another team picks up that 1 goal. But we're back again for game 4.
Well, time to see if the Ghosts can send us off to a second game 5 of the evening, and would be almost rather fitting, seeing as it took 5 to find the other grand finalist. And it's going to be Rise who strikes first off of a great pass from
There
Hannix.
we go.
That's huge.
That's exactly what I wanted to see from the Ghosts. Like I was talking about, they have to capitalize early. They have to push early. They have to get that first goal in. That is exactly the start the Ghosts needed to this game.
Well, let's see if they can compound down that pressure. A second goal would be huge. It's a centering pass, but nobody home. Ethan fends it to the side wall, but then after that, unable to find the clear. Actually, defense might have pressed too far forward. If Rise can find a touch, we'll at least send it over towards where they thought maybe Seb Van would have been able to gather it. Ends up not being the case. That ball still ends up going back into this blue zone. Seb Van up in the sky has to worry about Nathan rising up for the 50, who finds the save, and now trying to flip the field. Rise denies, but Ethan sends it right on back up in the sky. Will be shut down by Seb Van.
Jonathan keeping the ball right back into the Ghost zone here. The Cougars are doing an amazing job, and they pick up on it right there. That relentless pressure we've seen from them as they even up this game and force the Ghosts once again into that situation in a do-or-die game where they need more offense. They've got that 1 goal right off the hop. We now need to see if they can get themselves a second one and fend off the Cougars' attack.
Well, let's get down to it. See who will be the next team to give themselves the lead. Ghosts had themselves the first one, but since then it's felt like the Cougars have been a little bit more on the prowl when it comes to offense. Jonathan puts it on over. Nathan gets a touch as well to center it a little bit more towards the net, however loses the handle on the ball, which kind of puts you back in this awkward situation where you don't want to press too far forward. You take out a goalie though, and maybe that gives you the green light. Big 51, however, sends it deep into this Cougars territory. Now it's the Ghosts trying to close the gap, playing upfield. Seb Van, 1 touch, but just no gas in the tank to make a play with it.
Yeah, exactly. The Ghosts are trying to push here, but the Cougars, as we've seen multiple times, are just constantly keeping up that great cycling play and keeping that pressure in and forcing the Ghosts to have to fall back, waste that boost on defense instead of keeping it for an offensive push.
He's going to be able to find the save on that opportunity from Jonathan. Entering into our 3rd minute of play, it's Ethan trying to find a kind of space towards the net. Will be shut down by who else but Rise, who does seem to have a pretty good handle when it comes to the defensive side of things, as well as the offense. Jonathan redirect towards the net. Nobody going to be able to follow it up. Actually, Rise already has themselves a savior medal, and we're not even but a halfway through. You got to find a way out of the zone here for the Ghosts, though, because the Cougars have all sorts of pressure.
Yeah, the Cougars are just absolutely driving the pressure home. And one thing that I noticed from the Ghosts there was that triple commit on the defense. While they have to play defensive to keep more Cougar goals out of their net, a triple commit on that, you're just wasting all 3 of your players' boost economy. You're keeping all of your players off pace. There's no one to be able to pick up that ball that you've just saved and cleared out. And it's just allowing the Cougars to come right back into the zone.
Speaking of going right back into the zone, here's the Cougars. One more look at it. Oh, a swing and a miss by both the defender and the offender. No one able to get a touch onto it. Ethan will at least keep it down inside this Ghost territory. We're down to our final 100 seconds of play for Ghosts. You're the ones with the pressure. You've got to find some way, somehow to force it off to a game number 5, but it starts with a clear.
Yeah, it starts with the clear, and the Ghosts just can't get that clear out of their
Oh!
zone. And a beautiful double touch off the backboard by Ethan to put home the second goal, and a great pass by Nathan to set it up.
Wow, what a play. That's on your head, boy. The Cougars going to be up by 1 with 1:23 left to play. Now it's going to be the Ghosts who have to start moving with a sense of urgency. Otherwise, their run here at the Esports Canada EDU Scholastic National will come to an end here. It's more pressure forward. Rise sends it over. Hannock's not going to be able to find the touch onto that one. Be Seb fan, though.
Unfortunate. Yeah, unfortunate from Hannock's not be able to catch that ball and keep it into the Cougar zone.
Now you do at least have an opportunity to get it clear, but they're pinned back. They have no resources. The Cougars doing a great job of boost starving them here.
Yeah, boost starving them here. The Cougars pick up the ball. Nathan off the end trying to center it. Great clear there by Hannock's to try and get it out, but the Cougars keep it in. Steadfan having to burn almost all of their boost to just try and clear out the ball. But the Cougars, Cougars getting pinned a little bit back in their zone here. Wonder if the Ghosts can actually capitalize on that, take advantage. But as I say that, Ethan comes down the pitch, the solo carry, coast to coast, and puts the ball in just gently into that corner.
Also, can we give a big shout out to, I think it was Ethan and the Hannock's, who are locked into that Rule 1, and respect shown on either side that no one is going to break it. It's 20 seconds left. You need a goal every 10 seconds if you're the Ghost. You had an opportunity there. That gets denied. Nathan up in the sky looking for a double tap. Does get sent aside by Sebfan. Needs one goal right here, right now. Hannock's thought they had it, but Jonathan with the save.
What a save by Jonathan. I thought the Ghosts were going to be able to pick one up there, but Jonathan just tips it wide, gets the clear back down the pitch, and the Cougars are your winners of this semifinal.
That sets the stage for our grand finals, because it was the Marauders, the reigning defending champions, who were already in the grand final, waiting to see who they're going to be playing up against. Gotta give a big shout out to the Ghosts. They definitely pushed the Cougars to the limits. Maybe not giving them a 5-game series, but each and every game of the 4 felt like they were pretty darn close. So
yeah, the Ghosts were pretty darn close there, but unfortunately they end up going home with the gentleman's sweep. Yeah, but no, I am absolutely hyped. I might have played into a little bit off the hop there, going for the twin telepathy or the triplet telepathy piece. Hoping they'd make their way through, but that is the final that we have ourselves set up for here, Q. We have the McTavish Marauders and the CCS Cougars,
which should be a banger. And you know, we had been doing best of 5s up until this point, but how about this? Since we got a grand finals, how about we do a best of 7? So before we do that, how about we go ahead and grab ourselves a quick drink, grab yourself a quick snack, and then on the other side, we got to crown ourselves a champion. You had mentioned it is going to be the Marauders or the Cougars, best of 7 grand finals, right after the other side of this break.